the atmosphere was thick with tension. On February 28, 2025, a dramatic clash of personalities and political agendas unfolded in the Oval Office. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, a man who had faced years of Russian aggression, found himself facing an adversary of a different kind. Former US President Donald Trump, now back in the White House, and his Vice President J.D. Vance. The meeting, intended to solidify a crucial agreement between the United States and Ukraine, devolved into a public spectacle of hostility. Zelensky arrived with the hope of securing a deal that would grant the US access to Ukraine's valuable rare earth minerals, essential resources for various technologies. In return, Zelensky sought ironclad security guarantees from the United States, a lifeline in the face of ongoing Russian aggression. However, the meeting took a sharp turn south. Trump, never one to shy away from confrontation, accused Zelensky of being ungrateful for American support. The room crackled with animosity as Trump, with Vance nodding along, accused Zelensky of insulting the United States and its generosity. The proposed agreement, once the focus of the meeting, was cast aside. What was meant to be a strategic negotiation had turned into a public rebuke, a move that stunned the world. Trump, true to form, didn't mince words. He accused Zelensky of playing a dangerous game, jeopardizing global stability by gambling with World War III, a phrase likely workshopped in a room full of terrified interns forced to listen to him mutter it. Trump's stance on Ukraine had hardened considerably since his return to the presidency. Echoing his past rhetoric, he painted Zelensky as a dictator, a power-hungry man clinging to power, even going so far as to falsely claim that Ukraine had started the war with Russia. Zelensky found himself in the unenviable position of being publicly chastised on live television by a man who had once pressured him to dig up dirt on a political rival. Despite the humiliation, Zelensky stood firm. He expressed gratitude for American support, a statement that seemed to fly right over Trump's head. The Ukrainian president reiterated the importance of concrete security guarantees, pointing to Russia's documented history of breaking agreements. The crux of the issue seemed to be Zelensky's refusal to accept any deal without these guarantees. Russia had dangled a similar deal, offering an end to the conflict in exchange for territorial concessions and Ukrainian neutrality. Zelensky's insistence on American protection, especially in light of Russia's past actions, was to Trump a sign of weakness, an unwillingness to make a deal. The disastrous meeting sparked an immediate and explosive reaction. Protests erupted in cities across the United States, from the liberal enclaves of Vermont and Massachusetts to the sprawling metropolises of New York and Los Angeles. People took to the streets, voicing their support for Ukraine and their outrage at the Trump administration's treatment of Zelensky. In a particularly strange turn of events, protesters even managed to disrupt Vice President Vance's family ski trip in Vermont because nothing says we disagree with your policies like harshening a man's time on the slopes. Internationally, the reaction was one of shock and concern. Zelensky, fresh from his ordeal in Washington, received a considerably warmer welcome in London. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer greeted Zelensky, pledging Britain's support and emphasizing their role as a mediator between the US and Ukraine. European leaders gathered for an emergency summit expressed deep anxiety over the future of American support for Ukraine under Trump's erratic leadership. The incident served as a stark reminder of the fragility of international relations in a world grappling with the resurgence of Trumpism. The United States, once a shining beacon of democracy and a guarantor of global security, was now seen as an unpredictable and unreliable partner, its foreign policy seemingly dictated by the whims of a restless and vindictive former reality TV star. Back in the United States, the political fallout continued. Republican reactions to Trump's performance were divided, reflecting deep fissures within the party. Staunch Trump allies like Senators Marco Rubio and Lindsey Graham fell in line, echoing the former president's criticisms of Zelensky and questioning the wisdom of continued aid to Ukraine. Others, like Senators John Bacon and Tom Lawler, expressed concern over the damage done to America's global standing and stressed the importance of upholding Ukraine's right to self-determination. Democrats, for their part, were united in their condemnation of Trump's actions. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer accused Trump of aiding and abetting Vladimir Putin and emboldening Russian aggression. Schumer argued that the incident had weakened American power and credibility on the world stage, leaving the US vulnerable and more isolated. As the dust settled from the White House debacle, US officials, led by Secretary of State Marco Rubio, found themselves in the awkward position of trying to salvage a semblance of diplomacy. Peace talks with Russia, hosted by Saudi Arabia, were already underway. Zelensky's insistence on Ukraine's participation in these talks further infuriated Trump, who viewed any attempt by Zelensky to assert his country's interests as a personal affront. It was clear that the road ahead was fraught with uncertainty.